and get this recording now. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick King. I work for Urban Green Lab as the Sustainable Households Manager, and you are here for another episode of Sustainable Nashville Live. The purpose of this interview series is to open a dialogue with professionals, sustainability professionals, and organizations that are doing great work in and around Nashville. And today I'm here with Jason Carney of Energy Electives. He is the CEO and founder of that company. And before we begin, one thing to remember is that Urban Green Lab is a nonprofit. So if you feel so inclined to support the work that we do, you can go to our website, www.urbangreenlab.org, to make a donation, or you can text 44321 on your cell phone, and you'll get a link in which you can make a donation that way. And let's get things going. Jason, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. And let me just first say thank you for reaching out, Patrick. And it's good having our pre-conversation. And thanks to Urban Green Lab for wanting to feature me today. So I'm doing well.
Yeah, for sure. Good to hear. Good to hear. Could you tell us, starting off, a little bit about Energy Electives and what inspired you to get into the renewable and solar industry?
Okay, so Energy Electives, let's start there. We start thinking about how you got into it in a very long, circuitous route. But we endeavor to live at the intersection of diversity and clean energy. That is, my nice capsulized explanation for Energy Electives. But also, just to understand what we do is we attempt to get your building to net zero. So whether it is by energy efficiency or renewable energy, specifically solar, or some combination of the two, we want to do our best to reduce carbon footprint, help climate change, save you money, all of those things. But yeah, that's what we do. And the way that I got here is I always have to decide, Patrick, if you're getting the life story, the 2-hour, which capsulized one. So I'll give you the 2-minute version, which is.
And we're gonna have some more questions about like life stuff. So maybe we'll get to do all of it.
Okay. Yeah. So the short path is that I was working in HVAC sales, and part of something that came along, an engineer in town came along and told the outside salespeople, hey, you're going to have to learn about leadership in energy and environmental design, because all the building owners are going to start speaking this language. So me being the fly on the wall and wanting to, aspire to be that level of salesperson, started looking into it, studying for it, and came across the part of the requirements that says, hey, if you get renewable energy, you can get more points and you can increase your point total. This was, excuse me, around 2009. So at the time Barack Obama was president, he was pushing the Sunshine Initiative, which was doing his best to push down the cost of solar. Phil Bredesen was the governor. He was doing his best to set up furniture in the state of Tennessee to become a solar state. And it looked like an awesome opportunity or awesome time to get involved in solar. So I started researching solar a lot more. And all the time I spent researching it, I fell more and more in love with the technology itself, and then the opportunity that seemed like it was presenting. So in 2010, while still working, I went and created the entity Energy Electives with the idea that at some point this would hopefully be a landing spot, a way of doing entrepreneurship within that framework. I'm a native Nashvilleian. I come from kind of the west and the north side, and I could see the environment that I was in, where 3 or 4 streets over was a totally different environment. So I always like to say these people were managing opportunities. They were turning them down. And whereas where I'm from, people were looking for opportunities, and I felt that I could be a unique bridge between opportunities. Of course, in hindsight, China and the U.S. Fought and we lost, and
Mm-hmm.
all of those things kind of went away. But by then, I was already bitten by the bug and just believed so strongly in renewables. So started building my credentials, understanding that energy efficiency is best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So just wanted to build up those credentials and learn more about energy efficiency so that I would have an opportunity to let people enter in at different entry points.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you only, if you only have a small amount that you can invest, then energy efficiency may be the way to go. If you're a solar fanatic, then you could also do that. But hopefully, energy electives, our ideal customer wants to do both.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just solar. It's kind of like a more holistic approach to how we deal with energy and how we use energy in our homes.
That's correct. We like to lead with an energy audit. So
Mm-hmm.
come in and take a look at how you're using your appliances, how leaky your home is, all those things, and then also take a look at your solar potential and try to put together a proposal to get you as close to zero, net zero as possible.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, we're in a global pandemic, so I have to ask the question. How has COVID impacted energy electives, and what all have y'all done to adapt?
So it's pretty mildly severely, like not super severely, but it's pretty severe in that we were kind of tracking along with the E-score program with TVA,
Mm-hmm.
so they shut that program down, and so that was, we just had to sit and wait to see what was going to happen next there. They didn't even know what
Mm-hmm.
would happen next, and then there's a home that I was installing solar, and the homeowner themselves, rightfully so, said, "Hey, let's just stop all operations until we get a handle on." They happen to have residents, refugees from New York. New York at the time was like this hotbed. So they had
Mm-hmm.
family members come in. And so they were like, let's pause everything, make sure they don't have anything. So it slowed my work down to a pretty screeching halt. Everybody, I'm sure, was dealing with that. So,
Yeah.
in one way or the other. Yeah, it's pretty severely impacted it. I guess, best way that we've adjusted, which I'm not sure, we've fully adjusted, but we have, I think the country has adjusted. So now we're kind of in this space that, hey, if you've got, maybe we just do non-invasive work.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just blowing insulation in the attic, and we don't really have to be inside the house, or if it's just sealing the ductwork in the crawl space or in the basement, or we don't really have to, come inside the residence or spend a lot of time inside the residence, then
Yeah.
I think homeowners and building owners are receptive to that. And it, like I said, that has a lot to do with their reception. That it's like, okay, we've been in this for months now. We've got to inch along and do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of, I guess almost everybody who has either the luxury of working from home or, is just at home because they are out of work. At a certain point, they get just tired of looking at these four walls and be like, I got to fix this. I got to fix something. I've been having to do that at my house as well. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're bridging the gap. I guess another part of that is having family members come over, and I've got two kids.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife is in healthcare. Nothing has stopped for her. She still has to go in. So I'm the kind of managing the kids and my work,
Mm-hmm.
juggling that. So it's helpful that I have some support.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, I guess a little bit more about yourself and kind of what got you interested in sustainability?
Yeah. So that's the one that goes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a funny story is that I was in a play when I was in fifth or sixth grade. I had the same teacher for both fifth and sixth grade.
Uh-huh.
So can't remember which grade, but fifth or sixth grade, I was in a play about saving the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the planet was full of trash, and no one else could live here. So I think the play was called "In Search of a New Planet."
Mm-hmm.
So like 2, 3 years ago, my grandmother pulls out the program, and she's like, "Yeah, do you see this?" I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So I've really been in sustainability since I was like in the 5th or 6th grade, right? So
Yeah.
I've been learning about it, at least. So, but anyway, so beyond that, I was in undergrad. I was in mechanical engineering at Tennessee State, and
Mm-hmm.
my capstone project was around renewable energy, and so we looked at a number of different um, technologies, and for our capstone, we chose hydrogen production.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd also looked at wind and solar and other things. So I was, somewhat familiar even back in undergrad of renewable energy in general and solar specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I said, as I got into my professional career, I was reintroduced to it, and um, and like I said, when I started peeling back those layers on the benefits of solar,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is that we pull, renewable energy is not fossil fuel based. It's not pushing a lot of SOx and NOx, not nitrogen and sulfur dioxide or monoxide into the air,
Mm-hmm.
and learning that, frontline communities are mostly poor communities and communities of color that suffer the brunt of the adverse effects from dirty air, poor air, so and dirty water as well. So yeah, just the idea that, man, there are so many benefits
Mm-hmm.
of renewable energy, from, like I said, the economics and saving money, all the way to health and to just making, as we found out in this COVID environment, um, we really are the cause of climate change, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
premise. The premise is that humans are causing climate change. And since we don't drive as much as we used to, now all of a sudden the air is getting better and
Yeah.
the birds are singing louder and all of
Yeah.
this stuff. So yeah, that's what got me into it as I was researching. It's like, man, this is another benefit it's right. I'm a Christian, and I just believe that God gave us this earth. We should be good stewards of what we've been given.
Yeah.
And that's my reason for kind of staying in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's that wasn't 20. It wasn't 2 hours long. Uh, yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
um, so you've been dubbed the only Black man in Tennessee solar. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the field?
Yeah. So yeah, man, I'm a weirdo. And I like my family and my friends and all that since I was forever. I've always been like, you're so weird, and I love it. Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of that my Linus blanket is just being weird. So
Yeah.
I'm used to kind of going on my own path and doing my own thing. And if I like something, I like it. I don't care if you like it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my mindset and track. So when I started, getting into solo, I was like, I really like this. Like, it's like that thing that you find and no one knows it's there, and you're like, oh my God, no one else knows it's here. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I'm just going to hug it, and I'm going to, take care of it. I may not even tell anybody about it. But so yeah, when I got into solar, I was just doing my thing. I wasn't concerned about anybody else. And then
Mm-hmm.
as I looked up, that particular title specifically says that I'm the only African American in the state of Tennessee that's certified to design under TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority
Mm-hmm.
requirements. So which they require you to be NAPCEP certified, whether it's associate level or fully certified. So um, yeah, I was just doing my thing, getting certified, and uh, kind of looked up and was like, well, yeah, I don't really see
Yeah.
anybody that looks like me. But
Yeah.
I was so used to that from the sales environment that I was in
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't, something that jumped out. It was just okay, you're still in the space. And then uh, I looked at the solar jobs report that the Solar Foundation puts out.
Hmm.
And in 2015, it said that there was 0% African Americans in solar. And so I was like, okay, you know. And
Hmm.
then when I started working with Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, there was a lady there that found me. She's the one Asian helped me to get that job, and she was like, "I've been looking for you for like three
Hmm.
or 4 years now," and I was like. I was like, yeah. She's like, you're the only one. And I was like, well, I had that idea, but I didn't really go around the state asking anybody. I just
Yeah.
thought that. She was like, no, I've been around the state and I haven't seen anybody that
Uh-huh.
has, certification who's in solar like you as an African American. So that's when, since then, that's been about 3 years ago, I've continued to say that. And I'm waiting, as I say, back then it was somewhat of a sense of pride. Hey, you're first. This is great. But now it's become more of a, I want more people in this space.
Yeah.
So it's good, but it'd be better if I wasn't the only anymore.
Hmm.
But we've been saying that for a couple, 3 years now, and no one has come up and said, no, no, I'm also certified as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can change that. That's also part of why I say we're at the intersection of diversity and clean energy, because we want to show that there is a model out there for success, and we're working real hard at that.
Yeah. And that actually, your response just there pairs very well with my next question. What do you think are some barriers that prevent more people of color into breaking into the solar and renewables industry?
Yeah, we're working on real hard on identifying in a very practical way what those barriers are so that we can overcome them. But
Hmm.
from my experience, there's a report out there that if you I couldn't give you the exact web design, but NPR did a story on me, and they put a link in there to this story about even if you control for incomes, African Americans don't adopt solar at the same rate as other demographics. Um, and what I have said, you know, previously is that it's not just income, it's wealth, right? So we know that the wealth gap for African Americans has been, you know, severely lower
Hmm.
than for whites or other demographics. I think it was Pew Research that says Black unemployment has been double that of whites for the last 6 decades or more.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So although there might be possibly similar incomes, uh, there is more tugging at our income and our finances than maybe others, and so we don't invest in solar. So that's one. There's income. There's education.
Hmm.
So um, my experience in getting certified was that I looked around and there were no education centers, education places in urban centers. So Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis, Knoxville, none. There was some, I think, in Dixon,
Hmm.
one in Pulaski. But I was like, yeah, I don't, if I got to spend a week doing a program, I don't want to spend that there.
Yeah.
Nothing against those places, but um, so I had to fly all the way to Raleigh, North Carolina, to do my training and different things. So, you know, there's a there's a proximity issue as far as education. It's
Hmm.
not near us. It's not around us. So you're really going to have to push out and search to possibly get educated. So then, there's me. There's no uh, see it be it. What I'm trying to do, present a see it be it model. There's no one else in my you know uh, vicinity and within proximity to me that I could look to and say, hey, there's Jason. I can go over and talk to him. I can reach out to him. So there's a number of barriers, and those were the ones that were in front of me and the ones that I see even today. So that's why we started this in my grad school. As I built around this concept, we started with education, took it to a
Hmm.
local high school, and really got really good traction at the high school.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you said about see it, be it. because visibility specifically in fields or industries that, have all these other barriers to people of color coming in, visibility is such a key one.
It's really key. And not just visibility, but real actual autonomy,
Hmm.
ownership.
Hmm.
So we are, excuse me, we're very, we just like anybody else, we examine what we're looking at, right? We're
Hmm.
examining it. So if the person is not in a position to make decisions, then it can just be kind of, water on a leaf. It's shiny, but it's
Hmm.
not doing anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was important for me to try to, you know, start the business and found a business that I could not only have the knowledge base to talk, but also be able to talk economics, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
What is the potential for my career? How will I be able to provide for my family doing these things? So if we can you hire me?
Hmm.
Those are the big things that people want to know after they learn about the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that visibility as well as that agency to
Yes.
actually make changes and get stuff done.
Yep.
Yeah. So this next question comes from, it was submitted via Facebook, I believe, but it states, how does energy independence and social justice intersect?
Yeah, so I talked earlier about um, frontline communities.
Hmm.
These communities are um, most times communities of color,
Hmm.
um, and poor communities as well. Appalachia is also a frontline community, and so um, typically these are also communities that don't have agency, as you just said, and don't have the ability to make decisions. We are hand to mouth, so we're busy working and we don't have time to go down to city hall or
Hmm.
to write our senator or congressman. uh, you know when you're um, when you're coming up, you just have asthma, right? We
Yeah.
don't say that there is a cause. We don't link it to you. When you go to the doctor doesn't say, oh, it's because you live beside, that industrial plant.
Hmm.
They just give you a prescription and say, manage it the best you can. They even throw up the idea, oh, it's hereditary, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, um, energy independence, moving us away from dirty fuel sources that um, impact frontline communities, communities of color, poor people, is so important for our social justice, because those are the same people that need these voices in the space because they don't have time to. They're not educated. And so I just, since I had a little bit of a tip that was a question, I wanted to show this particular book that I like.
Yeah.
It's
Go
called,
for it.
yeah, Energy
Yeah.
Democracy. I didn't
Hmm.
write it. I don't receive any proceeds from it, but it's one that I really, really love. I started with Van Jones's book, The Green Collar Economy, years ago,
Hmm.
and it was my Bible and my sustainability Bible. And now this Energy Democracy book is, and now I call it my Old and New Testament. So if another book comes along, I don't know how I'll be able to give it a metaphor, but
Yeah.
yeah, Energy Democracy is really something I'm really reading and hoping that can develop into some policy going forward.
No, for sure. And I'll make sure we provide the link for that book as well. So I
Awesome.
appreciate you showing me the title.
Yeah.
Um, and then one thing to note is these frontline communities are also the ones that are the most at risk of a change in climate as well. So there are just so many issues and barriers that are kind of just all coalescing into these communities, primarily communities of color. Yeah.
You're very right. Very true.
So what are some of the positive outcomes of building renewable infrastructure in communities of color?
Um, One is the education piece, right?
Mhm.
So I've been in a community of color, I guess you would call it, or just a community in general. And I've seen like several $100,000, if not $1 million worth of solar panels just sitting in an open field.
Mm-hmm.
And and I was thinking, the reason that those are able to sit over there, although once they're constructed and put in place, they can save, over their lifespan, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the people who put them there obviously felt like they're safe because no one even knows what they are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting a little better now, but not very long ago, 3-4+ years ago, people didn't even know what they were looking at,
Yeah.
Even today, older people look at them and they think, they're like, yeah, I remember those in the 70s. We had those, and they would warm up the water for my house. And I'm like, yeah, same look, but those made hot water, these make electricity.
Yeah.
So there's such in our communities, there's such a lack of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
around the idea that you don't have to rent or lease your power for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's, we're at the very infancy stage of understanding that concept, that,
Mm-hmm.
you can put insulation in your home, you can weatherize your home, put solar on your home, and almost virtually break away. Now there's battery storage and pretty much break away from the utility,
Mm-hmm.
So that we're in the early stages of people understanding that on a individual level, and really in general. But yeah, that doing like for Weiss Creek, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
doing that project, I wrote about it in grad school first, right? This is what the outcomes that I anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was so satisfying for me was, it's you know, you get excited about the ribbon cutting and all the elected officials coming out and all of those things, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start it for that. I started it to educate and to hopefully, as I said, become a model that I can bring others in. I can look at, someone like yourself and say, hey, come on in here and let's build this system, and you can ask me questions and all that. So um, one of the things that was really satisfying is that as we were building it,
Mm-hmm.
there were students that um, were like, what are they doing? Because it starts as some holes in the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
then later there's some poles that are sticking out of the ground. There's and eventually it became a solar system with an inverter and lines and power run, right? So this one kid walked by, because you would hear those things it took us months to finish it because
Mm-hmm.
it was student led, right? So the students had to do everything. I was there as a project advisor and assistant, but they have class, they've got things to do, so it took time to do, but that was great. So during that time, you had a lot of, what are they doing? They're just messing around in the mud. And the students that were working on it had to endure this kind of teasing a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of those students, after it was all done, was like, this is amazing. I wish I would have gotten involved in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all that I needed to hear to feel successful.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, now that you see it, now that you saw how it was done, now it's like, man, I'm a senior and I'm getting ready to graduate, but I wish I was a sophomore that I could continue with this and learn more and more and more. So
Yeah.
uh, that's what I am really after by putting in installations in communities of color, is people being educated by it, people understanding it and what it can do for them, economically, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of, you just mentioned the Whites Creek project. Would you mind talking about that a little bit more for folks who might not be familiar?
Yeah. Yeah. So Whites Creek Comprehensive High School. Go Cobras! I feel very connected to the school now, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
welcome there. So that was a rival school when I was a kid, but now it's my adopted school. So in Whites Creek, Tennessee, have or they had a separate academy called the Alternative Energy Sustainability and Logistics Academy.
Okay.
They've since condensed, they're all one academy, but that's part of this singular academy now. So as I go to grad school now, mind you, Whites Creek is about 6 minutes from my house.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm in grad school and I'm developing this project, I was kind of led to this high school, and I'm like, oh my God, it's only 5 minutes away from my house, 6 minutes away. I didn't even know that they had this academy. A lot of people don't know that Nashville has these academy models where
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of goes back to the old vocational model where you learn a specific thing. So I didn't know that. My kids are only 10 and they're probably only 6 or 7 now, so I didn't have any connection. But yeah, got connected with them and walked up in the summer and knocked on the door looking for someone, and that shows you how disconnected I have been from high school, that I thought I could walk up in June and find somebody where school is out. But thankfully there was a teacher there who's still there today that as of last year anyway, named Mr. Tidwell.
Mm-hmm.
He said, hey, come on in. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to do this pilot project for community solar and want to start it, with an education component. And I would like to do that here since you already have an alternative energy academy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, yeah, you need to talk to Dr. Gibson and Mr. Marshall and Dr. Jones Hall. So a couple months later, when school's back in, talk with them. They're excited. Hey, so we had to raise the money. That took some time. But Whites Creek, again, is so, providential, as I keep saying, because it's 80, 90% African American. They
Mm-hmm.
have a school that is already an academy that speaks to renewable energy and alternative energy. So I was like, this is actually the perfect test case. So they were receptive of me coming in and doing the project. And we started with a experiential day. We started educating the students, then took them to different places around the city that already had solar, so we could start educating them. Then brought in some professionals to talk with them. And then over the next couple of years, it was raising funds. They went out and raised $20,000 in a competition. So now we had the funding. We got panels donated
Mm-hmm.
from the Solar Foundation. And then started trying to find students that would, because the idea and the reason why it took so long, people were like, yeah, we could put that up in, 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, no, the students have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that I want to do this. So they designed it. They decided where the location of the installation would go. We would study where the sun rose and fell. And, they would also look at the different parts of their campus and say, no, that wouldn't go well there because, we have water issues and there's flooding there. So they decided the location, they designed the size, they chose the inverters, they chose the contractors, they went down to the codes office to get their design approved and did everything but the things that, you had to have a license to do. But they also got OSHA certified. And if we can continue the program, we want to get them NABCEP certified as well too. So yeah, they did everything and also helped with the build and yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, that I did a little bit of reading up on that project before our talk today, but yeah, it seems amazing. Isn't it? It's still functioning and everything today, I would imagine.
Still functioning, still functioning. I just went over there the other day, and this might be a little technical, but it's a what we call a behind the meter installation.
Okay.
So the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, is our only utility for the state. This is part of the education that I do. And they sell power to all the distributors. NES, where we pay our electric bill, is just a distributor of TVA's power.
Gotcha.
They buy the power from TVA and then they sell it to us. So TVA basically dictates the rules of engagement. Almost every solar installation has to connect to the grid. for backup purposes, right? So you make your solar, when you make the most solar in normal, not pre-COVID situation, right? But
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID, you make the most solar when you're not home. So if that's not stored, then it's not used because you don't have, when you come home at night or in the afternoon and turn all your TV and your washer and dryer and everything on, you don't have the same sun. So you need to interconnect to the electric lines, or the grid as we call it, so that you have backup power during the night, so you can run your things during the night. So that grid is basically TVA, right?
Okay.
I'm bypassing NES because, like I said, they're just a distributor that passes down. TVA dictates all the rules of engagement or interconnection when you're putting electricity back onto their grid.
Mm-hmm.
So they used to encourage a lot of solar adoption. They would pay you for
Mm-hmm.
the electricity that you put back on the grid. They decided at the end of last year, no longer would they pay for any electricity.
Yeah.
And so now they encourage the idea, the process of going behind the meter, you consuming all of your electricity instead of putting it onto the grid. Now,
Gotcha.
in real life, you're going to put it back onto the grid, but they're not going to compensate you for it. So,
Mm.
yeah. So, and then they're going to sell that to your neighbor and make money off of it. So, if you don't put a battery in,
Yeah.
then it becomes not an economical thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're already on the fence on whether or not you can afford it. And then now I've got to put in a $15,000 battery.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now. So, so we decided at the school that since we're not trying to cover 100% of the bill, a school of that size, back when I first started with them, their electric bill, their energy bill was about $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
So there was no way we would put an installation in that would cover $500,000
Mm-hmm.
per year. This was purely for educational purpose. So we put in a 13.2 kilowatt DC system that we believed that we could just consume right there on the spot,
Yeah.
and we don't have to put it back onto the grid. So that's what I call it. It's a behind the meter installation that is consumed right there on site.
Mm-hmm.
So all that to say that when COVID hit and everybody left, there was no school, there was no demand.
Yeah.
So we had to shut it down. And then just now the teachers are now showing back up, and they've got to cool the building again. And so we just turned it back on, and it's producing pretty well.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear it's back on, despite, all the uncertainty that's going around with MNPS schools this year as well, Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got one
You're
more
welcome.
question for you. And
Sure.
hopefully this is a fun one. What's your sustainable vision for the city of Nashville?
Ooh, my sustainable vision. Who'd that come from? That sounds like a really good question.
Well, it's just like pie in the sky. If
Yep.
you had like a endless checkbook and overwhelming public support and all of
Yep.
these other things, what would
Yep.
Nashville look like?
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, so there's this really, really high level that I want to see. I want to see clear skies. I want to see clean water. I want to see, um, asthma rates go down. I
Yeah.
want to see all of these things, and I believe that is accomplished with increased renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, at an environmental level, on a economic level, I want to see more African Americans in a green economy. That was what
Mm-hmm.
my graduate school thesis was around, introducing African Americans to the green economy through solar energy. So there's more, as Urban Green Lab is in sustainability overall, there's more than just solar, there's a lot more. And I want to see more people of color and communities of color involved in the green economy. I think there's a lot of opportunity. And again, we shouldn't be searching for opportunity as much as managing opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be introduced to that. And Then on a policy level, um, hope this doesn't get edited out.
Let her rip. Let's go.
All right, so
Yeah.
I want to see TVA bring back their residential program
Mm-hmm.
and fairly compensate people for the electricity that they put back on the grid. At the very least, net metering. At the very least, pay the same amount you're charging me, pay for my electricity.
Mm-hmm.
That's TVA. And I want to see the state pass PACE, which is Property Assessed Clean Energy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the state pass PACE legislation, because what that would do would be really open up the market. If your viewers are not familiar with PACE, it would allow, it's a bond that the state carries or your city carries, that allows you to finance your clean energy measures on your property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a $20,000 energy package or solar system, you could finance that over 20 years and pay $1,000 extra a month on your property taxes while you're already enjoying the benefits of the savings of your solar system.
Yeah.
So literally with the stroke of paperwork, and this is already happening in other places, but it has to be approved at the state level before the city can implement it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the city would, because we've already pledged as a city to be 100% renewable by 2041. So
Yep.
we have the heart, we have the will, but we've got to have the state to approve it first. But yeah, with the stroke of some paperwork, you can be putting money into your pocket, because you can do things that would bring in, $1,100, $1,200 a year, after the savings, and you're only
Mm-hmm.
paying $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a year. Yeah.
So that's state level. City level, we need immediately to pass the Rounded Up ordinance that was up for vote last year. And Rounded Up is it's already happening in Memphis and Knoxville. It's very successful. It's called Share the Pennies in Memphis. It's called Extreme Energy Home Energy Makeover in Knoxville.
Yeah.
But and it's the opt-out version
Mm-hmm.
of Rounded Up. So what that does is puts you round up the change on your electric bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your electric bill is $141.35, then you round up that amount to the nearest dollar. So that gets rounded up to $142. And
Mm-hmm.
then the 65 cents is put and funded into this fund that will allow for weatherization for low income and moderate income folks who are really struggling with whether to buy their medicine or buy their food because of their very, very high electricity bill.
Mm-hmm.
So that would provide this market for funding is already in place, and now we just got to do the work. So now you've created an economic engine that I can hire more people, and there can be more weatherization companies and energy efficient companies that can do this work, and so that would be amazing. And then, I guess finally, specifically around solar, I'd just love to see more incentives around battery storage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's if we all, if 2 out of 5 homes in the city had battery storage, I think it would just change our whole thought. Like electricity changed our whole way of life when we started transmitting it over long ranges, right? It used to
Mm-hmm.
be, hey, the sun's down, there is no more work.
Yeah.
Now we have lights and we can work, we can continue to work into the night. So now we have to deal with reliability. So if, right now, if there's a power outage, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of battery on our computers, but if we have battery backup now, we don't even have to think and be so skittish about power outages anymore. So when you are on a breathing machine, that's running off of power and different things like that could change the whole outlook for a lot of people. Saving money with your electricity, but also just safety concern and health concern. So I would love to see finally, I'm a part of, you can't get me going, Patrick. I'll keep talking.
No, let's keep it going. This is exactly what this series is for. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So I'm a part of the mayor's sustainability council on the Climate and Energy subcommittee, and we have some really, really incredible ideas. And since NES is kind of the middleman between TVA and us, we have a lot that we think that they can do. So they are, you're going to have to stop me. So they have signed, NES has signed a 20-year contract with TVA to get cheaper power. For that signature, now, first of all, we think that that's too long to be locked in to a contract. So if you're not happy with that, please write your council person, your senator, and all that good stuff. Memphis has done a study that if they move away from TVA, they'll save hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We don't even have a study. We should at least do a study that says what would happen if we did that. We're screaming about paying for public education and paying our teachers, and according to the study for Memphis, we may be throwing hundreds of millions of dollars away a year that would solve that problem. So, so that's the kind of the situation with NES and TVA. They've signed this contract. It's not ironclad yet, but it pretty much, for the most part, they've already signed it. So, so for that contract, they get cheaper power now, and I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to. Sorry.
No worries.
I don't think they're going to pass those savings on to us, right? We're not going to all of a sudden look at our bill and see. So we think one of the recommendations within the Climate and Energy Subcommittee is that some of that savings needs to be put into a program to increase solar, and not just in low-income communities, supporting Black businesses like my own, and funding Rounded Up, and all of these things. There's chunks of money there that, since we can't get them to back out of the contract, then let's use some of that. And there are other recommendations. So I guess the overall vision is, if I had my druthers, adopt everything in the recommendations that are coming out of the Climate and Energy Subcommittee for the Mayor's Sustainability Council.
Yeah.
I'll put a little bow in that.
Thank you. That was a extremely well thought out response to that question. And I really, really, really love the Roundup program. That I read about it a couple of months ago, and I was just like banging my head up against the wall. It's like, why don't we do more programs like this? It's, just money just floating out in the ether that we could use for anything, really.
So I'll ask you for your viewers, would you be opposed to rounding up your bill?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
So it was so frustrating, because that was kind of my introduction to the sausage making that is politics.
You call it sausage making?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mess, man, because we had 50 plus people down there with pushing this, calling our council people, saying this is a good thing, this is the right thing, and everybody on the street, informal surveys, people like yourself, cousins, when I say, hey, here's what this bill is about, and it has to be opt out, right? Because if you have to make people, again, move from their schedule and go and find something on the internet and opt in, or call a number and opt in, then you're just not going to have enough of an adoption rate.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, look, you've opted in, and at any point, there is no deadline. At any point that you don't want to do this, you just call in and tell them, take me out of that. You're out.
Yeah.
It's not even a contract. It's just a thing. So when I say that to people, and the average cost for you would be $6 a year. That's the average cost. Lowest possible cost would be 12 cents.
Yeah.
Highest possible cost would be like $11.99.
Yeah.
Most people I speak say that to are like, oh, that's nothing.
Over the
Yeah.
course of a year, that's
Over a
negligible.
course of yeah. Like
Yeah.
what? Like
You
do
lose
that.
more change than that in a year, you know?
I literally could find that somewhere in my couches. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Your ashtray of your car. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, most people are for it. But as I said, the sausage making was so disappointing because the council allowed, some group, somebody somewhere to put out a bad story,
Hmm.
and then it kind of proliferated. But
Yeah.
none of those people who were against it came down and physically put themselves in the council to speak against it. All
Hmm.
the people that were there spoke for it.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine that a minority of people in our democracy stopped that bill, a
Yeah.
minority. So apparently they were a strong minority or a powerful minority, but it was not the will of the people.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be passed before the end of this year. If not, the state of Tennessee has already said they're not going to allow that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's urgent.
Yeah. Get out there, folks. Write your
Yes.
senators, write your Congress people, write your council people.
Council people, tell
Yeah.
them, pass it.
Yeah.
NES says they will push it forward. Now, NES could do it without the council's approval, but
Hmm.
they won't.
Yeah.
If the council will approve, they'll push it through.
All right. Now, Jason, we have gone a little bit over time, and I feel like we could just keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to wrap this up in my own little bow. But
Yep.
I just want to say thank you for doing this with us today. And if viewers want to get in touch with you or have any additional questions, what's the best way to do that? Or even
Yeah,
if they
so,
want to get involved as well.
oh yeah. So Energy Electives, you can go to www.energyelectives.com or energyelectives.com/enter site to kind of see one of the installations I've done solar-wise. And then all of my contact information will be there. On Twitter, I'm at Energy Elect.
Mm-hmm.
So at Energy ELECT. That's it. And I'm also the president of the Tennessee Solar Energy Association. So if you want to get involved there, we would love to have, this COVID environment has, changed so much. We would be doing a lot of outside door events and
Yeah.
all of these things. So just please do go to the Twitter page, which is at TN Solar Assoc. So I'll spell that at TNASSOC. No, sorry. Scratch that. At TNSOLARASSOC.
Mm-hmm.
ASSOC. You're going to have to write this down.
I'm going to be providing the links, so don't even worry about it. Yeah, I got you.
Tennessee Solar Associates at TNSOLARASSOC. I think I got it that time. So, so yeah, just hit us up one way or the other. And even if you couldn't follow all of my crazy trying to spell out that Twitter, find me on Energy Electives, and we can move you over to Tennessee Solar Energy Association. Would love to have members, and we're going to try to do a reopening of the Solar Energy Association soon here. So please do reach out if you want to get involved.
Excellent. I was going to ask if there are any events you wanted to plug, but you just did, so I appreciate that. Jason, thank you so much for your time today, man.
It's been a pleasure, Patrick.
Next week, we'll be interviewing Rebecca Dopp of, lost my train of thought there, Electronic Recycling Solutions. If you have any questions for Rebecca or a recommendation for an organization that you'd be interested in learning more about, feel free to email me. My email address is patrick@urbangreenlab.org. And that's all we got for you today. And until the next time, remember to live sustainably.